Hi guys, hope we're all really well. Back again, second board for the year. This one's still on the mid-length theme. We've got a 610, 21.5 and a fairly generous 2 3/4 on this one. And obviously it's a long fish design. It's pretty, if you look at the shape, it's fairly sort of seaside and beyond style. Other boards in that range would be like a Christensen Nautilus or a Longfish, and there's more boards coming out like this. I actually took some of the template off the front of my red mid-length that I made, and I usually like a quad. The red mid-length has got a bit of a narrower tail for a bit better day, and it's designed to be like a 2+1 and then also a quad, so I tend to quite like quads, so I thought I might make something that was a bit of a step down from that one kind of thing and go specifically quad and make the tail a bit wider. So yeah, 6'10", 21.5 and 2 3/4. Pretty mild rocker, nothing too crazy, but there's enough there to keep you out of trouble. I've kept it fairly full up in the nose and beaky, and I've really rounded the rail in this front section so we're not catching anywhere. Put quite a lot of tuck on there and rounded it up nicely in the front, and then tried to keep the rest of the rail fairly low and narrowing down into a fairly thin but still plenty of meat and drive in their tail. So it's probably similar to the new Machado Seasides and Beyonds that have come out that are they put 3 sizes in originally that were really thin and refined in the tail like the Seaside, and then they put another 3 sizes in that were like a bit more volume per length. So this is probably more along the lines of one of those. So this tint looked beautiful at the hot coat stage. It looked absolutely insane, but you got to sand them, and I've not really played around with epoxy yet to see just how polished you can get them. I know on the polyester boards people are putting like a special hot coat on, or special top coat that's actually a gloss, that is actually designed as a gloss coat. I don't know if you can get the same level of polish from an epoxy board, so I've kind of just been sticking with these colour and a matte finish. But it's come up really nice. It's a proper, it's a proper cut lap. You got a patch in the back, so you got a bit lighter green here. We got a fin patch there, quad fin specifically, and you can see cut laps here. Yeah, it's sort of a fairly nice all-round shape. It should go in most waves. So I've made it quad specific. I'll show you the concaves in a wee minute, and we'll talk about some of the fins I'd recommend. But say it's very much along the lines of the Seaside and Beyond. We've got a single concave that's actually, this came out quite well, so it's deepest under where I expect my front foot to be, and then we run into a double through the fins, and then just from behind the front 2 fins, we start going into a V and double, and then just mellow off out the tail. So yeah, it's a bit of playing around to get the fish tails really nice. Like I say, we've got we're fairly chunky and beaky up in the rail there, but we keep the rail nice and round at the front, and then coming into the tail, I've like really kind of tried to work on getting it, thinning it down a bit, and we've got a nice long hard rail edge there. So yeah, should get some good release off the tail, but should carry some good speed as well. And I think it'll be fairly hard to bury this whole rail, which is good. So give me quite a lot of speed. Cool. So yeah, I'll come around and show you the concaves, and then I'll talk about some of the fins I'd probably recommend for this type of board. So the concaves on the 610 fish, this all seemed to work out quite well. It's quite natural. It just went in easily and landed in the spot where I wanted it, so I'm quite lucky here. So yeah, the usual single starts just where the rocker breaks, and then coming through. This one actually is very much deepest under where you'd expect the front foot to be, which is it's kind of here, and then we're just coming into a double within the single there as we go into and through the front 2 fins. So you can see that the double sat, it's not on a V, it's sat lower, so it's basically as the single fades out, the double begins, and that's through the front fins. And then once we get off the back of the front fins, I'm starting to look for a little bit of V. So there's my V, and I've still got the double in there, and that V just accelerates more off the tail and allows me to increase the rail rocker at the same time. So you can see on these tail tips you've got quite a nice bit of extra rock there that just helps you get onto a rail. It helps roll you into a rail early. So V off the tail, V through and behind the back two fins with the double fading out, and then the double is there with no V through the front fins, and then that double starts to blend out into a single through underneath my front foot at the deepest point, and then that fades all the way out down to being just mellow where the rocker breaks. So yeah, so you can see the tail there. There's quite a lot of messing around that you have to put into getting a swallowtail quite nice. You've got the concaves there. Yeah, it's come up pretty good really. There's the rails, and yeah, it's definitely a bit of work to get all these, to get the crotch of the swallow and everything all nice without burning any, without sanding too far, and then, you know, keeping this nice hard edge all the way around. Just took a bit of building up on this one. It took a couple of goes. So fin recommendations for this longfish or big fish, or, you know, like the Seaside and Beyond, the Nautilus, even some of the middle of the road sort of like beginner intermediate fish that some of the guys like NSP and Modern do, like I think it's one called is it the Blackfish or something. There's a few boards that are similar. Like if they're set up as a 5 fin or a quad, the same sort of fins will work if you want a bit more drive and speed out of your board. So I usually go for these Futures controllers or the FCS split keel. They're both pretty much the same template, and to say the principle is that you've taken the principle is to take more of a keel fin like this, and you split that into 2, and it just gives you a bit more control and a bit more drive, and makes the board a little bit more predictable and a bit more versatile. That's my opinion. You don't need to go quite that big if you didn't want to do. Like, this board would still work fine with your standard quad fins. Like, I would use my go-to quad fin is a large Almeric. My go-to 5 fin set, whether it's a thruster or a quad, is basically a large Almeric, and they sort of work in my boards from 510 all the way through to 710 if necessary. So I quite often put those in as a go-to, and then decide if I want extra drive and extra speed and go from there. So you can play around with what you're used to. It doesn't hurt to start with what you know works for you, and then figure out what you want to change in the feel. So yeah, another good option would be the good old Machado Seaside quad. So this is what's in the Seaside and the Seaside and Beyond, and again, it's that kind of keel fin split into 2, but this is nice in there, like, because this fin's quite low and doesn't have massive area. It's almost like a twin and 2 trailers almost is the feel of it. So they can be a little bit more unpredictable than the controllers, but say another great fin. You could go to a keel fin like this if you wanted. Ideally, if you were going to ride the board as a keel fin, you'd design it as a keel fin, and you'd put the fin box further back. You put what is the front thruster fin boxes, you'd put those further back to start with. I personally think keel fins work better when you put the fin boxes further back, but again, it's a mid-length or a decently long board, so it's got rail length, so this could just be fun to loosen up on a smaller day, and there's no reason why it wouldn't work. It's just fin position is quite important, but say on a longer board, the fins move further up anyway. So yeah, fin position is quite important, but that can get quite technical unless you sort of know what you're looking at and what you're trying to do. Yeah, so that's the recommendations for that.